can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Weisz.
Dr. Jeremy Weisz here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have Jason Hunt of Merged Media. You can check them out at merged.ca. And Jason, before I formally introduce you, I always like to point out other episodes of the podcast people should check out. Since this is part of the Top Agency series, one of my favorite episodes was with Todd Taskey. Todd Taskey helps pair private equity with agency owners. He helps sell agencies. He's the Second Bite podcast, the Second Bite, because sometimes when they sell, private equity sells again, and sometimes that founder will make more on the second bite than they did on the first. So that was a really interesting conversation about valuation, the business landscape, agency space, and everything like that. Another good one, favorite of mine, Jason, was with Adi Clevitt. Adi Clevitt helps as a done-for-you solution for companies to create SOPs. So we geeked out on our favorite software, productivity tools, and processes. So that was a really good one. People can check out more on inspiredinsider.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. At Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their dream relationships, partnerships. How do we do that? We do that by helping you run your podcast. We're an easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. And we do the strategy, the accountability, and the full execution. So Jason, we call ourselves the magic elves that run in the background and make it look easy for the hosts so they can create amazing content, amazing relationships, most importantly, run their business. So for me, the number one thing in my life is relationships. I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. And I found no better way over the past decade to profile the people and companies I most admire and share with the world what they're working on. So if you've thought about podcasting, you should. If you have questions, Jason has a podcast. We'll talk about it. You can go to rise25.com or email us at support@rise25.com. I'm excited to introduce Jason Hunt. He's the co-founder of Merged Media, which is a leading digital marketing agency specializing in SEO, social media, advertising strategies, and much more. He's got over a decade of experience, and really they help businesses drive growth through innovative marketing solutions. He also hosts the Drop the Mic podcast. We'll talk about that, where he interviews industry leaders on AI, digital marketing, entrepreneurship. And Jason, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jeremy. I'm happy to be here.
So let's start off. Just tell people about Merged Media and what you do.
Yeah, definitely. Merge Media is a company that myself and my business partner started back in 2019. We're actually a combination of two agencies. Back in 2016, I started a social media agency called Fresh Crowd and grew it relatively quickly. I was banging on doors and walking the streets of Toronto trying to drum up business, and grew to 100 clients very quickly. And naturally from there, I continued to sell social media, grew a team beneath me, but realized that we were losing out opportunities. And those opportunities we were losing out on are those businesses that required more than just social media assistance. So it was a no-brainer for me to merge my company with a leading SEO company. And I say leading because if you Google SEO companies in Canada at the time, my business partner's company would come up, and he just so happened to be down the street from me. So I merged my company with his. We were pretty much identical in terms of revenue, employees. So it was actually a seamless match for us and transition to put our companies under one roof, and hence Merged Media came to fruition.
There is a video piece to this if someone's listening, we are on the Merged website, so people can check it out. But talk about that. I mean, it seemed like, okay, you're equal in revenue and there's a lot of equal pieces. Talk about maybe what was good about the merger and maybe what you would have done differently, because I'm sure, you had similar roles at the time. So I'm curious, what did that look like?
Yeah, great question. I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned throughout years of partnerships and trying to establish partnerships with other people and businesses is that partner fit is so important. And I've been fortunate enough to have a business partner that offsets all of the weaknesses I have, and and I offset a lot of the weaknesses that he possesses. So, for him, he's the CEO of the business, the CFO. He manages the operation, and I'm more of the brand ambassador doing things like this, speaking on stages around the world, essentially the CMO of the company. So having that in a partner has been so important because we know where our responsibilities lie, and we know who's the subject matter expert in each of the challenges that come our way.
What did the conversation look like before the merger? Did you discuss those things like, hey, my role is marketing. I mean, I don't know if that just it evolved into that, but like, listen, I hate the finances. I don't want to touch that. He's like, oh, I love the finance. Like, what was that conversation like? Did you divide those roles and things before you actually merged?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question because obviously you're always in that exploratory phase when you're thinking about merging companies, and the way it actually worked out and the way it shook down is timing was key because at the time I was actually looking for some office space around the same area, and he said, "Well, my team has more than enough space over here. Feel free to bunk with us if you want for a bit," and that was the intention. We had no intentions of merging. But naturally, we found ourselves in the same room together, sharing the same boardroom, and evolving to the point where we're cross-selling each other's clients. And then naturally, it was like, hey, well, this doesn't it just make sense to just merge our companies together and offer all of these services and put our account managers all into one bucket, working with accounts and things like that? Because and then that happened, and then at first we were essentially a white label, a referral partner. And then that just evolved to just having the one brand. And so when we went to the drawing table, and my business partner, Todd, owns thousands of domains. We spent one morning just browsing through these domains, and then we came across, oh, merge.ca. That sounds about right. And that's where the story started. And here we are today. But to figure out roles, naturally, when we combined our companies, we noticed there were a lot of voids that each of the companies had. And one of those voids that I had was having somebody that really managed a strong operation. And plus, my lack of knowledge at the time on SEO definitely made it a no-brainer for him to kind of fill that seat because he was so focused on process and internal operations. It only made sense for him to assume that position. So it only took a couple months before we're just like, hey, okay, you're the sales marketing guy, or I'm the sales marketing guy, and you're the operations finance guy. So it just worked out.
Yeah, I had Mark Winters on a while ago. He co-authored Rocket Fuel with Gino Wickman, and it sounds similar. He's like, to get Rocket Fuel is, that visionary and the integrator that combine that sound like what both of you are. Like you're kind of more sales marketing visionary. He's more operational integrator, and that created Rocket Fuel and merged happened. In the
It's funny.
beginning, go
Yeah, I
ahead.
was just gonna add to that, Jeremy. Like he's living on like AppSumo, going shopping for apps and things all the time, things to help evolve our business, stay with the times, and just feeding me the knowledge that I need when I'm speaking on stages to continuously be cutting edge for the audiences that I speak to.
What are some of your favorite softwares at a company? Maybe that you use or it could be, an app on your phone too, but I'm curious what from project management, CRM, what things do you like?
Yeah, so I mean, we use obviously a handful. I mean, we've really embraced Go High Level as a platform for a lot of our clients for building out landing pages, lead gen campaigns. Internal operations wise, we use a platform called Cloud Campaign for doing social media scheduling. Really embrace Basecamp for project management. For us as well, really there's AI tools that we have embedded into our agency. We're actually part owners of a couple very popular SEO tools such as Cuppa.ai,
How do you
um,
spell it? To be able to check it out.
yep, Cuppa.ai, which is a bulk content generation tool for SEO agencies. And then we have topicalmap.ai, which is another tool for not just SEOs, but any content creator that wants to come up with fresh ideas for content. They're two fabulous tools that we use on a regular basis.
Talk about the topic of AI for a second. I know before we hit record, we were talking about AI, and we could go through the chatbot route or wherever you want to take it.
Yeah, so I mean, For us, it's inevitable that as an agency, it's almost like it's a great practice you get as an agency of having to constantly evolve, constantly, change. Like our packages change, it seems like every 6 months over the course of the last 8 years because of some new update that happened or some new ad placement or something like that. So, constantly being ahead of the curve has been super important for us. So naturally, when we came across tools like Cuppa AI and Cuppa AI, a lot of tech developers that come up with platforms such as Cuppa, they aren't really strong marketers. So for us, it's a no-brainer to partner with a tool like that to do all of their marketing and get equity in the business. Right. So we did that with a couple tools, but now we're at a point now where we're starting to build our own tools, such as AI chatbots. And we've developed our own AI chatbot to put on not just clients' websites, but now we're selling it as well, where it's a little chat box in the corner of your website that is very conversational. It's not like it doesn't seem like it's a bot. You know what I mean? So it's actually integrates with OpenAI as well and just makes it very conversational. And every single one of these bots has a goal in mind. And that goal could be, becoming a lead, booking a reservation at a restaurant, booking a room at a resort. So with that end goal in mind for each of these chat bots, essentially it guides you down that journey to get to that end goal. And it's been very beneficial for the clients we're rolling it out with and new clients that have come on board for it.
Can people sign up separately, or they go through you and you have to kind of set it up
Yeah, so
bespoke on their side?
that's one of the benefits of the tool is that, we want to, it's really built for any small business owner that finds AI to be super overwhelming. We would customize the entire bot for them using their brand voice, FAQs, and we're constantly developing these bots as well. So it is a little more hands-on where our agency is developing it for
I
them.
mean, that makes sense because they have, if it's going to be automated, it has to be programmed somehow, you know?
Oh yeah, and the funny thing is like I see on the screen now. I know those people listening can't see, but you've got the merge bot, queued up right now, and you can ask the merge bot anything you want. Ask it. Yeah. Let's see. You're asking. I want to talk to Jason. Huh. That's interesting. Oh, Jason, so it gives you all the data on me, and it's got a contact form there as well if you want to be reached out to. But we have, ones for resorts. Ours is really geared towards the goal of getting you to sign up for a free discovery call. But there's, other websites out there like Kokomo Botanical Resort. .com. I know that's a mouthful for you. KokomoBotanicalResort.com, which is I'm the fractional CMO for that resort. If you go there, you'll see a bot on there as well that you can engage with and basically ask anything you want about the island of Turks and Caicos. And it's a subject matter expert on Turks and Caicos, and an expert on everything that's encompassed in that website. So that website, we've been doing SEO on it for years. So it's got tons of blog content
Hmm.
on it. So that bot will be educated on all of the blog content, everything there is to know, whether it's, how many, what time of year is the busiest time at the resort, whether there's a hurricane policy, all that type of stuff will be educated. The bot will be educated on that.
That's very cool. I love
Yeah.
it. And so what mistakes do people make? I'm sure they come to you and they're like, we love a 24/7 customer service person in the form of an AI chatbot. What are some of the mistakes you see people have made when you're on their kind of chat function or things they're missing?
Yeah, I think so. So one thing that needs to be baked into it is the specifics of the business. So we work with a franchise, and each franchise or each dealer of the franchise or dealer of the company has their own specific offers and products that they sell. So making sure that the bot is trained specifically on the products for that business, because it is connected to OpenAI is connected to the internet, so it could be easy for it to gather information that might be incorrect, and that could be a big mistake if the bot's giving incorrect information as a customer service bot for that business. So that's all done in the configuration of the bot, so to ensure that it gives proper answers to the questions that are asked.
Jason, I want to go back to when you started the agency because it's pretty impressive to get to 100 clients so quickly. I think instructor for any business, whether a SaaS business, agency, anything. And you said you were knocking on doors. So I'd love to hear what was that process like early on? to get your first couple clients and do 100? What were you doing?
Yeah. So that was it's funny because the day I decided to start my agency was and leave the corporate world was the same day my wife told me she was pregnant with our second child. So and it
You
was
got a fire lit under you.
immediately when I said I'm going this direction, and she told me that news, and I'm just like, oh geez, I'll just go back to the corporate world. I'll have a safe job, make six figures, be happy. It's going to be great. She's like, nope, you always be resentful if you do that. So I said, okay, screw it, let's do it. And I went the direction of starting my business, basically eating my toenails, and then basically I had no choice. Success was the only option, right? So that was the motivating factor to get me knocking on doors and not fearing rejection until I got yes for an answer. And at first, it was crazy. I'm going door to door selling social media daily posting for $199 a month. Like, come on, we're talking February 2016, right? So I'm just like you look back now, and that's insane, and I'm doing it all myself, right? So, but I was able to go. I was in Oakville, Ontario, downtown Oakville. And I remember sitting inside of a Greek restaurant talking to the business owner, Manny, for probably like about 3 hours. He's giving me the full tour of his Greek restaurant. And by the end of it, shook my hand, and there was my first client, $199 a month for daily posting of his Greek restaurant.
Wow. He got a
And
steal and he's
yeah,
grandfathered in today. No,
yeah,
I'm just
right.
kidding.
Yeah, and there, yeah. So that was years ago. But now we're talking now, and then from there, I was able to get a few big name franchises on board. And naturally, there was one franchise. It's a massive shawarma chain here in Canada called Osmos. And through working with Osmos, I was able to leverage that name. So when I walked into a plaza that had
Hmm.
about a dozen other businesses in it with an Osmos, I could easily go in there and say, "Hey, I'm the social media guy for that company." And then naturally that gave clout. So they were just like, oh, okay, let's hear your pitch. And being as cheap as we were, it was very easy to drum up a lot of business real quick. And naturally, obviously, got way too busy, started on the brink of burnout. So had to hire somebody under me, Dave, who's still he's actually a partner with us to this day. And then from there it just evolved and grew from there. And here we are now. We're at almost getting close to 10 years later. And now we're just kind of working with hundreds of clients, SEO, social, everything under the sun for digital marketing. And it's been quite a journey. But one thing I guess, if I were to say, one thing we never did was we never really niched. You know what I mean? Just I think most agencies that started that long ago never actually said, "Hey, I'm just going to do construction marketing," or I'm just going to do microblading marketing," or whatever it is, right? So that's one thing that a lot of new agencies that are coming up are taking advantage of it is niching out.
So when you were getting those 100 clients, were you literally just going door to door and knocking on doors? Like you were just go,
Literally knocking on
yeah.
doors, going in there and pitching or trying to get
What was
initially
your, yeah, go
getting
ahead.
past the gatekeeper, right?
What was your pitch like initially when you walked in to just grab attention? Because obviously people are defensive when you're walking in. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, back in 2016, because I definitely wouldn't take that approach today. But back in 2016, I would basically walk in and look for a business owner, right? And I made the wise decision of joining certain local communities such as BNI, looking at adding myself to local chambers and things like that, which can always help leverage that. Like, hey, I'm Jason. My company's Fresh Crowd. We're part of the BNI here in Oakville. We're part of the chamber. We do this, that, and the other. And then, taking an advantage because being savvy with Facebook ads is we could run Facebook ads in certain postal codes as well. So if they saw me walk into their business, maybe they also saw a video of me talking about social as well on their social media feed at 11 o'clock at night. And that was the goal we are trying to go for. It's really micro those areas that we want to target. It was really geographically based in terms of where we wanted to target initially, because we wanted to get that kind of omni channel presence.
Yeah, it seems like, Jason, you're very good at kind of using certain principles, especially like social proof and credibility, whether it's Osmos or using the local chamber. And I don't know, I'd argue a little bit with you about maybe people should go door to door a little, like just walk in. There's a personal face to face. Like we're all, I don't know, I'm always behind like it's an email. And it's not saying it's it's definitely harder to go in person, but it's also personal. You're meeting the person as opposed to sending all these emails and or sending social media stuff. I think, a little face to face or phone call is good.
I would say face to face, absolutely. But I also think that we're now in a time in our lives and in life where time is of the essence, and I think time is also a bigger commodity now. Whereas, like for example, phone calls. You said phone calls there a second ago. I hate phone calls. I never pick up my phone call. Am I losing business by not picking up my phone? Potentially, but I'm also losing time by the amount of people and noise that is hitting my phone on a daily basis. There's noise on social media. There's noise in my inbox. There's just noise, noise, noise everywhere. So almost the constant battle for people is trying to eliminate all that noise and get to what matters most, whether that's family time, whether it's that response to an email, whatever it is, you're trying to weed through all the crap to get to what really matters. And I think that's a big challenge for people. So when we talk about phone calls. I tried the phone call route back in like 2018, 2017, 18, where I would call 100 small businesses a day. Activity breeds sales. And I'd maybe get 3 demos from 100 calls. And at the end of the day, you squint your eyes and look at it. It's like, was that time well spent? I don't think it was. How many people did I piss off by just taking them away from whatever they were doing at that moment in time to try to have a conversation so I can give my sales pitch? It's like, I don't know. And for me, maybe it's great to hire an external agency that can do that work. But for me as a business owner, I took more pride or took more enjoyment in going to local events, speaking at local events, meeting face to face at my booth, talking to business owners to understand what they really want and need. That's something that's totally scalable because AI is never going to replace that either. So that's always going to be there. So the face to face, I agree. Telephone, not as much.
Um, you mentioned this about standing out, right? There's a lot of noise. Talk about how, as an agency, again, we were talking a little bit about saturation of digital marketing, et cetera, about how do you stand out?
Yeah, I think the big thing for agencies now, because really a digital marketing agency is they're a dime a dozen now, and I think Ty Lopez's SMMA program really created that sort of
I
thing,
don't know
which
what that, I'm not that familiar with it.
this is all years ago, basically, so have your social media agency out of a box. Here's how you do it. Here's how it works. And anyway, that was a big thing, which I noticed there were a lot of people, getting finishing school and starting their own social media agency. The area became quite saturated probably around 2019, I would say 2020 as well. And from there, I mean, you look, if I open up my feed now on Instagram, I'm going to be inundated every third post with some sort of an ad. Somebody's trying to sell me leads or something like that. And I think AI is not slowing that down. It makes it very easy to do a lot of work with the help of AI, whether it's building out nurture sequences or doing some sales automation stuff. So if you think about it, what separates one agency from the next? And I think the most important thing that an agency needs to do is build brand, right? And a lot of agencies like brand. Oh, I don't need brand. I just want leads. It's like, no, because the better brand you have and the more recognizable or credible you are, the better leads you're going to get. Great example of that is, having my podcast. I'm at episode 214. Been doing it since February 2020. And I find that any lead that has seen a video of me on YouTube, a video of me on Facebook, and listen to my podcast and subscribe to our newsletter, and a lead that has come in through that sequence of having all these touch points ends up being a way better client for us. And I draw the comparison. Okay. We ran some campaigns last year for half price social media management. We ended up getting 34 leads, 34 sales on a spend of $7,000. So we made like a 50x return on ad spend. And every single one of these clients didn't last more than 3 months. They were looking for a cheap deal, cheap offer, and they came in the door and just was in and out. It did not create a long lasting client. Nothing against our services. It was organic social media posting. But if I have a client, the same type of client that came in after listening to my podcast for 3 months, longer leash. They'd be with us for years, right? Because they're making the decision to work with us as opposed to being pushed into some half price or opportunistic offer. right? So I think that's very important to know. So how does an agency stand out? Well, they got to build a brand and be known, like, and trusted within their with their user base.
So, Jason, if we are looking at the merge.ca, we're on the podcast page. Talk about some of your favorite episodes.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a bit about the podcast. So right now you'll see this on Merge. The Merge Marketing Podcast stops at episode 200. But if you go to jhunt, JAYHUNT.social, that's my personal site, and that's where I carried on the podcast and rebranded it to Drop the Mic. Reason for that, we wanted to disconnect it from the brand and make it more about the conversations I'm having with my guests. And the format kind of changed as well once I went to Drop the Mic from Merge Marketing Podcast. Merge Marketing Podcast was very corporate. I had a lot of people reaching out to me to get onto the podcast. The format would be about a 20-minute conversation. Essentially, they would just do a sales pitch or talk about their framework. But as I went over to Drop the Mic, this is where I started actually choosing my guests, hand selecting my guests to come onto the show. And these are people that are really subject matter experts, speakers on their topics. And we dive into what motivated them to become the marketer they are today. And so to give a bit of a backstory, I do a lot of emceeing and hosting of conferences, and I speak at conferences. So I have the pleasure of meeting speakers from around the globe. And a lot of these speakers are the people and guests that you see on my podcast, Drop the Mic. So one of my favorite guests and conversations, I had one with Brendan Kane, episode 201. Brendan Kane is a world-renowned speaker on marketing. He's got 1 million followers. He wrote the book, 1 million, How to Get 1 Million Followers. He's worked with the likes of Taylor Swift in the NHL. He was a fantastic guest, and it's a fantastic method for attracting users to engage in content. So that's 201. Brendan Kane, if you scroll up there, see there. Yeah. So you got Dennis Yu, very well-known digital marketer as well on episode 202. Every one of these speakers from 201 up to 214 are all world-renowned speakers on the topic of marketing. And to be honest, they were really strong, authentic conversations as opposed to sales pitches.
Love it. Yeah, I had Dennis on. He's really, really knowledgeable for sure. And talk about some of your favorite conferences.
Yeah. So, I mean, some of my favorite conferences, I go to Europe twice a year. The European Summit is an affiliate conference where you got people from around the world visiting the European Summit. Testconferences.com is the website. So for them, it's really about 2,000 people. But it's an intimate gathering. Sometimes you go to those big, massive conferences like Affiliate World and things like that, and it's just overwhelming with the amount of people that are in attendance there, and you can't really build close connections or have intimate conversations with people. It's more like a 2-minute conversation. Oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm looking for traffic. Oh, cool. I'm looking to buy traffic on these websites, and that's it. You don't have a chance to build relationship. But at TESS, the European Summit, those conferences are really about spending some extra time with those people, going to intimate dinners. The conference itself geographically is very tight, which is great because it allows you to see people multiple times. And so it's very easy to carry on a conversation from somebody you meet at the bar to seeing somebody at a booth. So it's just, and the talks is a very different format for the speakers as well, as you'll have 4 speakers speaking at a time. Each of the rooms hold about 50
Is this
rooms.
the one, Jason, right
That's
here?
correct. Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
Each of the rooms is about 50 chairs in it. So the seminars are very intimate as well. And you have everybody talking about anything from AI to TikTok to SEO, a lot of SEO speakers as well. But yeah, this is definitely a good show for affiliates, anybody looking to explore, new niches and stuff with affiliate marketing. It's definitely a good conference.
You done some work for events too. Talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So aside from emceeing and hosting, I hosted the AW Summit, which was in Bucharest, Romania, last year. Sorry, not last year, a few weeks ago. So hosting that conference was really cool. They had an amazing venue called Face Convention Center in Bucharest, where I felt like I was hosting the Oscars, which is pretty cool. But But yeah, aside from doing hosting, I do a lot of Facebook and Instagram advertising for conferences to drive attendee registrations. That's really fun because you get to work with an industry that's actually pretty fun and sexy to work in because you get a lot of people that engage on a conference on event content as opposed to working with like insurance, right? Where people are not as engaging on that content. So with events, it's actually pretty fun to work with to get people to engage and do giveaways and all that type of stuff.
What's been a fun giveaway?
I think giving away, well, for example, we've done one we're giving away a 3 night stay at in Turks and Caicos. You can get leads. We literally were getting leads for 20 cents per lead doing that giveaway, which is insane. So you can just imagine thousands of leads for 20 cents a lead. Now, keep in mind, I mean, depending on what product you're selling, that may or may not be relevant. But in this case here,
No,
it
I
was
always like fun ideas. Yeah.
yeah. We use a platform called King Sumo to run our giveaways, which is a fantastic platform because it encourages people that enter the giveaway to easily share the giveaway. So it's great exposure for the brand. And they do it at like a click of a button. So once you submit your name into the contest, it says, hey, do you want to share this to Twitter? Do you want to share it to YouTube? Do you want to share it to Facebook, Instagram? You can do it at a click of a button. And by sharing it, you get extra entries into the giveaway. So you can see how that can be amplified, right?
Any others, Jason, that either you've done or you've seen? Like I've seen people give away Tesla. I mean, really just interesting stuff. What else have you seen that maybe your company helped with, or maybe you
Yeah.
just saw?
I mean, so I'm just thinking small business here, one we've run for a restaurant in the past, which is really good. And we've done a lot of these for restaurants is giving away concert tickets. So,
Hmm.
we had a restaurant that we did a contest for where we were giving away tickets to Rod Stewart. So that was what we had, Rod Stewart tickets, which was fantastic. So all we had to do with the targeting of that is target within the 10-kilometer radius of the restaurant and then target anybody that had a like for Rod Stewart. Anybody like Rod Stewart? And this particular campaign went bonkers on such a small budget too. I think we only spent like probably like 200-300 bucks on the giveaway, and it got thousands upon thousands of engagements and tags and conversations happening. I think it was like tag a friend that reminds you of Rod Stewart, or tag a friend that loves Rod Stewart was the call to action, and it just went ballistic. So and that's the good thing about tickets is you're able to or with that type of a giveaway is you're able to specifically target people that have an interest in that thing you're giving away, as opposed to giving away an iPhone. You know what I mean? Or even giving away a trip to Turks and Caicos. Like if you can be very specific and get like a book giveaway or a concert giveaway, you can really get the messaging in front of that user as closely as possible. And that's where we find conversions work best on the paid ad side is if you can get that message to resonate with the person seeing it, you're going to get a better conversion cost every time.
So I know you do a lot of different types of businesses, right? From we talked about the event businesses, the resort, the Turks, resorts. We talked about restaurants, but you've even helped landscape companies. So what kind of stuff do you do with them?
Yeah, so interesting. We got a great example of it. Back in 2017, we had this local landscaper. His name's Colin. He came into our office for a meeting, and this guy was just basically cutting grass, cutting lawns in the area. His business was generating 200,000 a year, and he was very ambitious. He wanted to grow the business. So we decided to say, hey, you know what, Colin? How about you focus on growing the business? Give us a percentage of your company and we'll worry about the marketing and lead generation. We gave this guy a shot. We said, let's do this. And so he's like, sure, let's do it. In the first year, we grew his company from 200,000 to 1.3 mil. He was totally focused on the operation, didn't have to worry about the marketing. In year two, he went from 1.3 to 1.5. Year three, he went from 1.5 to 1.7. And at that point said, you know what? I think I've created a strong blueprint here. Let's franchise. So we actually went out and found 3 franchises in the area. So we had a total of 4 locations. And then he got that company to 2 mil. So now Colin travels with me to conferences around North America talking about his case study, which is pretty cool. So
I love that model a little bit. Why do you think more agencies don't do that or kind of take a percentage?
yeah, so I think the big thing is that you got to partner with the right people. We've tried this before with other businesses and they kind of flopped, right? So not we didn't just, first at bat hit it out of the park, right? So it takes partnering with the right people and goes back to what I said earlier in the conversation is finding the right people to offset your weaknesses. In Colin's case, he was not a good marketer, but he was a great, he ran a great operation. So we ran with it, right? And took that off his plate and let him run the operation. I also think a lot of business owners, to their fault, think they can do it all. You know what I mean? And they're okay with wearing many hats, or they don't want to give up any percentage of their company because it's their company. You know what I mean? Even though it could get them to the finish line much quicker, but sometimes it's very hard for a business owner to do that. So I do think there is a certain element of trust that goes into it first, and you have to build a relationship with somebody before you have that conversation. I just had a conversation with a guy yesterday that wanted to buy 25% of my business, and I'm like, buddy, we just kind of met 3 weeks ago. Let's walk before we run, So and to be fair, if it was 2017, I might have been like, yeah, it's a great idea, let's do it. But I've just learned my lessons, and you just got to make sure you're partnering with the right people.
Talk about structure of that for a second, Jason. You don't have to share specific numbers, but when you work out a deal like that, are you then going to get certain amount of payments per month or per year, or is it only upon sale? How do you, I'm sure you've kind of dealt with different deal structures. What have
Yeah.
you found is a good thing to think about if someone's thinking of structuring something like that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a long-term play, right? So, I mean, the value that we would bring to that company is they don't have to pay a marketing person or marketing team. So the equity is essentially we're essentially working for free, right? As
It's a
part
good
of the
deal for them.
good deal for them. It's sweat equity, and we don't want to do this deal with everybody, right? We want to be very selective with who we do it with. But also, depending on the level of ownership, we would offer mentorship. Obviously we're on the board. In some cases, we're actually hired as employees. We're getting salary from those companies, depending on the level of involvement. So there is multiple benefits that come along with it, but it really depends on what the scope is, how much work is involved. To kind of structure everyone, I would say that none of them are the same by any means. We have companies where we're 5% owners or 10% owners, and other ones where we're 25 or closer to 50% owners. So in those cases, there obviously we're much more involved in it, but it warrants it based on the percentage that we're getting.
What have you learned from that you bring into the business from being a rock star?
Rockstar. It's funny when I go on these podcasts, it's usually the first question. So, but just to give some a frame of reference. So back in 2005, I was living in Japan and I started a rock band. And I noticed through that experience of singing on stages and going on tour in Japan, I realized I was a much better marketer than I was a singer. So through that experience, I got into it. Really drove me towards marketing and helping other people become rock stars in their industries. And hence the book I wrote back in 2022 is called Drop the Mic Marketing. And in that book, essentially, I'm telling people how to find their social media voice and how to become those rock stars in their industry, because essentially that's what you are as an entrepreneur in your industry is, and the ability you have to use social media almost as your microphone or megaphone to be able to spread your word, spread your message.
Love that, Jason. I have one last question. Before I ask it, I do want to point people to merged.ca. They can check out more. Obviously, we talked about Drop the Mic podcast, and now we know where the name comes from. He was an actual rock star in Japan. Last question, Jason, is about mentors. It could be distant mentors, meaning like books that you love, that you recommend, that you like, or personal business mentors, someone who's really helped you throughout the years. What are some of your either distant mentors or personal mentors?
There's one book that really comes to mind when I think about this question. And I read it years ago, and it's kind of like sort of my personal Bible. It's The One Thing,
Hmm.
right? By Gary Keller and Jay Papasan.
Yeah, I had Jay on the podcast. That's a great,
Did you?
yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love this book. It's a fantastic book, and really, it's the premise of the book is really to focus on the one thing and that one goal in mind at the end of the tunnel, right? Like, what's that light at the end of the tunnel that you're trying to get to? Because, as a business owner, you're hit with so many decisions to make in a single day, but every decision should really lean into what that main one thing is. And when you're a business owner, you get shiny things passing by all the time. So how to distinguish what actually matters from the shiny thing passing by is a very difficult and daunting task at times. But if you have that one thing in mind and that light at the end of the tunnel, then everything becomes easy. All decisions become easy. So I'll definitely give credit to that book and Seven Habits for Highly Effective People. Another one I have next to my desk here. Another fantastic book that I live by every single day.
Thanks for that. Any business mentors throughout your journey that have influenced you?
Well, without a doubt, I mean, just giving the time frame on when we started, which was, early 2016. This is at a time when Gary Vaynerchuk was so popular, and the hustle culture, which he kind of retracted and went backwards on. But definitely, I'm going to give credit to hustle culture for getting the business off the ground and getting to 100 clients as quickly as I did, going door to door, all stemmed from hustle culture. And and that, it was funny. We used to always have this abbreviation in the business, EPLG. EPLG stood for empty parking lot grind. Are you the last car in the parking lot when you're leaving the office? If you are, take that photo and send it to the team. So we praise people for that, back in 2016, 2017. Bit of a different world back then. So yeah, I would
I mean,
definitely
certain things get us to a certain place, right? I mean, early on, that's what was needed.
100%, 100%. But it's interesting because now AI is doing a lot more of the hustle than we do now.
Love it. Jason, I want to be the first one to thank you. Check out merge.ca, more episodes of the podcast, and we'll see everyone next time. Jason, thanks so much.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, everyone.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like 100 grand.